Welcome back everyone to Henderson State University's Department of Aviation Hard Start Information Sessions. We're now going to complete our 3 sessions by doing session 3 of 3. We have talked about the aviation program in general, let you know about our professional pilot track and management track, talked about that in session 1. In session 2 we got more into the specifics of how to budget for flight training if you're in the professional pilot program, how do flight labs work, how much do they cost per hour and per semester, etc. So now what we're going to do is wrap everything up in session 3 and talk about what's our next steps. We're ready to become an aviation major, so what do I need to do in particular to get ready to be on campus in fall? So we'll tackle that here in session 3. So what do you need to start flying? If you're going to fly as a professional pilot major, or if you're going to fly for as electives as an aviation management major, well, there's a few things you have to do before you can fly for the first time. And those things are here on the screen. There's 4 steps you must do, 4 things you must do. The first thing that you must do is participate in an entrance interview for the Department of Aviation. This is not an aviation technical interview. We're not expecting you to know anything about anything aviation related. It's more of just a get to know you type interview, and it should only last about 15 minutes. You'll do that one-on-one with an aviation faculty member, and we'll talk about when you'll do this here in just a moment. But let's go ahead and let you know specifically what you need to do. So you have to do that entrance interview. We also have to verify that you are a U.S. citizen. That's TSA verification. If you're not a U.S. citizen, then there's a couple other steps we have to go to. Please feel free to email us and talk to us to get that dialogue started. We can absolutely fly with persons from other countries, not just the United States, but by and large most of our students are U.S. citizens, and the TSA requires that we verify you are a U.S. citizen. And again, we'll have a little bit more specifics on that in a moment. We've already mentioned in session 2 about the cost of aviation being where you pay for the aircraft per flight hour. You rent the aircraft to go fly. That is a cost in addition to tuition. How do you pay for that? You're actually going to have an aviation account separate from your student account. So you'll pay for tuition out of your student account. You'll pay for your aviation expenses through your aviation account. So as an aviation student, you'll have 2 accounts on campus instead of just 1. So you'll have to open that. And again, a little bit more specifics on that in a moment. And then the last thing you have to do before you can start flying is obtain your medical and student pilot certificates. Now, the medical certificate you need to do on your own before you start to school. The FAA requires for you to become a pilot that you have a first class, second class, or third class medical. You'll ultimately need that first or second class medical to fly for hire, and particularly a first class medical to fly as an airline pilot. So since you're going into professional aviation, we recommend everybody go ahead and get a first class medical as their first medical. That first class medical will revert to a second class medical once the time duration for the first class medical expires. First class medicals are only good for 6 months or a year, depending upon some criteria. Second class medicals can last for a longer period of time, and then a third class medical can even have a longer duration, depending upon age. So first class has a shorter duration, second class a little bit longer, and then third class the longest duration. But again, what do we recommend you do? We recommend that you get a first class medical as your first medical, because you can do all the flight training you need to do on that first class medical, and it makes sure that you can pass the requirements for a first class medical before you invest time and money into the professional pilot program. So get a first class medical. Where do you get these medicals? Not just any doctor can perform these medicals. They have to be approved by the FAA. They've gone to a special school to know what to look for in particular by FAA requirements. So these doctors that are approved by the FAA are referred to as aviation medical examiners. abbreviated AME for short, Aviation Medical Examiner. Now, the information booklet that I hope you downloaded either from session 1 or session 2, and again, I'll have that link at the end of this session as well. That information booklet has the Arkansas AMEs listed in it. But what if you're not from Arkansas? Where can you find an AME? The website, www.faa.gov/pilots/AME locator, provides a search engine to search for AMEs in the area that you specify. So feel free to go to that link to search for aviation medical examiners as well. One last note on AMEs and that first class medical. Not every AME is authorized by the FAA to issue first class medicals. All AMEs can issue second and third class medicals, but you have to have done this for a while as an AME to be certified for first class medicals. So make sure that you follow the nomenclature, the terminology, and what the AMEs that you're seeing can do. So again, we recommend that first class medical. You can locate and use the AME of your choice, and you need to have that before the semester starts. So that's one thing you need to do between now and when school starts to get that medical, because one of Henderson's requirements is that you have a first, second, or third degree medical before you start flying. So let's get a little bit more in depth on a couple of the other steps. We talked about your aviation account. You have to open your aviation account before you start to fly. Minimum deposit to open that account is $500. Now, when you start flying, the cost of that flight will automatically be deducted from that flight account. Henderson requires that before you start any flight that you have a minimum balance of at least $500 in that account. Now, we mentioned in session 2 that you progress the most optimally by flying 3 times a week. If you fly 3 times a week, and if you look at the aircraft rental rates for the mall with an instructor on board, for really rough math, you might as well say you need to budget for about $200 per local flight if it's not across country. So if you do 3 local flights through the week, you're probably going to need about $600 per week to go fly. When you start doing cross countries, it can be more because some cross countries will be of a long duration. But again, just to kind of get the ball rolling and know how to manage that flight account, again, before you go fly, you have to have a $500 minimum balance in that flight account. You put money in your flight account through the business office at campus. You don't put money into your account at the airport. You put it in your account at in Womack Hall on campus, 3rd floor, where the business office is. Now, as you're starting school, if you are unable to open a flight account, you can still enroll in all your aviation courses, with the exception of the Intro to Aeronautics lab. You cannot enroll in a lab if you do not have that aviation account set up. If you're not setting up that aviation account the first semester, you can still enroll. You will be categorized, listed as an aviation management student until you do put money in that aviation account and open it. And at that point, we can change your major to professional pilot. So the reason is the management aviation courses and the professional pilot courses are the same that first semester, except for that Intro to Aeronautics lab. So how do we schedule flight labs? Well, we use the seniority-based scheduling. Once you're a student here and let's say you're a sophomore, junior, senior, Henderson as a whole, which obviously includes aviation, they allow seniors to enroll in classes first for about a week before juniors can enroll in classes. And then about a week later, sophomore can, and then about a week later, juniors can. So you always need to be aware of when it's time to schedule your classes, because that's when you can schedule the labs. The more senior you are, the more choices you have available to you of when you go fly. We're going to fly like a Monday, Friday, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. schedule. We fly in 2-hour blocks. We schedule them on the hard schedule 2 days a week, either Monday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, or Wednesday, Saturday. We have an open schedule where you can schedule your third time around your schedule. We don't schedule that third flight ourselves for you because you may have athletics, you may have band, you may have a physics lab, a biology lab, something that would make that logistics a little too hard to do. So we schedule 2 labs a week, again a Monday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, Saturday, and they'll either start, they'll all start on an even hour, like 8 a.m., 10 a.m., noon, 2 p.m., 4 p.m., 6 p.m., 8 p.m. Those are the 2 that we schedule for you every week. But again, you need to fly 3 times a week. This makes flight training the most optimal. It's up to you to get on that schedule with your flight instructor for that third flight that week. So back to how you need to enroll in the labs this first semester. If you're not able to start flying in the fall due to being in athletics or some other factors, that's okay, perfectly fine. You don't have to start flying this first semester. You can start flying your spring semester. You'll still take the Intro to the Fundamentals of Aeronautics 1 course the fall semester, and then take the Intro to Aero Lab and Fundamentals of Aeronautics 2 in the second semester. Again, please refer to the information booklet of those classes that are offered in the degree plan. And then also, flight labs are offered in the summer sessions. It gives you an opportunity to get caught up if you've gotten behind. It allows you an opportunity to get ahead over the summer if that's what you prefer to do. So the degree plan that we're giving you in the information booklet is a good starting point. It's a plan. It's a good plan to follow step by step if it fits for your schedule. But if there's other circumstances that come into play and you need to take some flight labs in the summer and perhaps not fly a fall semester but fly a spring and a summer, that works out well too. So we can work with you on those labs and those scheduling. Some other notes that we need to make you aware of in aviation. As an aviation major, you will be required to have a minor. What you choose to minor in is up to you. We do not dictate what you minor in. It's a minor of your choosing. And like we also just briefly mentioned, our degree plans that you have in that booklet don't depict the ability to fly during the summer, but we do let you fly in the summer. So we're open to fly basically around 360 days a year actually. Even when school's on spring break, flight operations is open so that you can fly during the break. School's closed on Christmas break, flight operations will be open for the majority of the Christmas break. We're going to close for the major holidays. But the simple story is we want you to fly and we want to provide that opportunity for you to fly. So we maintain flight operations even when school might be in a break. Now all professional pilot students are required to have an iPad. We use that in what's called an electronic flight bag. Instead of carrying around a bunch of paper charts, it's all digital these days. And we have to standardize the way this is done. So our standardized electronic flight bag is an Apple iPad with a subscription to ForeFlight. Now once you're a student here at Henderson and have the Henderson email address, you can get ForeFlight at a reduced rate. And we'll have that information for you in your flight lab and how to subscribe to it and such at that time. And there's different levels of ForeFlight that you can subscribe to. We don't require any particular level. You can subscribe at the basic level and add other stuff to it if you want for some more options. But you are required to have an iPad. There's different sizes, so let me advise you a little bit on what size to get. The biggest iPad's really too bulky for the cockpit. The traditional size, the regular size, works okay. It's not too big and bulky, but it is maybe a little cumbersome. The iPad mini really works well in the cockpit for reading instrument approach charts and such. And actually, the iPad mini happens to be almost exactly the same size as instrument approach charts. So understand and recognize that an iPad mini might be a little too small platform to use for a regular device. So don't feel like you have to have a mini and a regular if you want to have a regular. The regular is going to work okay in the airplane too. But the mini is really the least cumbersome in the aircraft. So I don't recommend the full size at all to use in the aircraft. One of the other two sizes, and as far as just aircraft alone, the mini works best in the airplane. But don't hesitate to use the regular normal size iPad either. So what's next? What do you need to do next? you're ready to be an aviation major. What do I do? Well, you need to register for the Aviation Heart Start session that's going to occur on June 22nd. This is going to be more of an online event, but it's the time and the mechanism that you're going to visit with an advisor to sign up for your classes. You should be getting an email, if you haven't done so already, from Henderson's admission office to register for Heart Start. As an aviation major, make sure you sign up for the Aviation Heart Start that's scheduled to occur on June 22nd. Also, aviation students are going to need to do a couple things on campus before classes start. Classes start on Monday, August 17th, but back to those things you need to do before you fly. We need to do that before school start. Because of that, we have a different move-in day for aviation students. Aviation students will move in Wednesday, August 12th, and the move-in time is slated from 9 a.m. to noon. You should be getting some further information about this later on, but again, just be aware that aviation move-in day is Wednesday, August 12th from 9 until noon, and then the following Thursday and Friday we will do in-processing and orientation. We'll have a little bit more of an information session for aviation students that Thursday and or Friday. Schedule is still being developed depending upon how many students are enrolled, and we will be communicating these in more detail with you between now and then. So again, registering for Heart Start is fundamental so that we know who's going to be here and we can email you of any updates. But again, move-in day, Wednesday, August 12th, in processing and orientation, August 13th and 14th, the following Thursday and Friday. What do I mean by in processing? Well, it's those 4 steps. So let's review those again and make sure that you bring what you need to bring to be in processed. So again, we're going to do an entrance interview that Thursday or Friday. You don't need to bring anything but yourself. Just come visit with us. We'll have a little interview, and that will take care of that. We will also need to verify you are a U.S. citizen. So what do you bring to do that? This is regulated by the Transportation Security Administration. They're very specific on what we can do and what we cannot do. So what do you need to bring so that we can verify you are a U.S. citizen? 1, if you happen to have a current U.S. issue passport, that's the only piece of documentation you need to bring. We will make a photocopy of it and give it back to you, but we have to see the original. We cannot accept a photocopy. If you don't have a current U.S. issue passport, then we use 2 pieces of information. That is your current driver's license or some other government issued picture ID. Typically, the driver's license is what most people have as a government issued picture ID. That along with your original birth certificate. Again, we cannot accept a photocopy of either your driver's license or the birth certificate. We have to actually feel the raised seal on the birth certificate. So bring your birth certificate with you. If you don't have the current U.S. passport, we will make a photocopy of it to keep in our records, but we cannot accept a photocopy. If you show up and don't have this, we cannot have it emailed to us. We cannot have it faxed to us. We have to, by law, physically feel that raised seal. So make sure you bring those. The other thing we talked about was opening an aviation account. So again, make sure that you have your funds available to go to the business office to deposit money into your aviation account. Minimum deposit is $500. A little bit more detail on how that account works. Like I said, you have to have $500 in that account before you can go fly. There's no maximum amount as to what to put in that account. We don't micromanage how you manage your aviation account. It's kind of like a checking account or declining balance in the way that it works. So whatever money you put in, you put in however much you want on the frequency that you want, and then fly and have those flights deducted from that. Let's give a scenario. First off, the big answer is that money never defaults to the university if it's not used. So let's say you get to the end of the semester and you still have money in that aviation account. It stays in that until you go fly the next time, the next semester. You go home for the summer and don't fly over the summer, that money stays in the account. It never defaults to the university. Whatever amount of money you put in your aviation account stays in that aviation account for you to use for your aviation expenses. At the end of your tenure, you graduate and you still have money in that aviation account that's not been used, you request it back out and withdraw it. So whatever money you put in that aviation account remains your money to be used for aviation. That never goes away unless you use it, and it never defaults to the university over a period of time. That's your money. Last thing, we mentioned you had to have a medical and a student pilot certificate, so make sure you bring your medical with you. We covered earlier, there's 3 classes of medical. You have to get those from an aviation medical examiner. Make sure you bring that medical with you. What you won't have yet, and something that we will take care of with you while you're here during in processing, is get you your FAA student pilot certificate issued. That can actually be processed by our flight instruction staff. So we will do that with you while you're here being in processed. So all this in processing is basically one-on-one activity. It takes a little bit of time. That's why we need you here a little bit before school starts, so that we can in process and conduct an orientation with all aviation students before classes start on the following Monday. And lastly, mentioned earlier that you need to monitor your emails. So register for Heart Start. Keep a vigilance on your emails for communications regarding the Aviation Heart Start, regarding any updates or details that we need to relay to you regarding our in-processing. Since we're in the time of COVID-19 right now, some things might be changed between now and then. I don't believe they would change too terribly much, but again, we just never know right now. So please pay attention to your emails to see if you get anything from Henderson Aviation regarding our Heart Start. And that's the end of session 3. I hope these sessions have been informative. I'll state again at the end of this session, as I did in the others, please feel free to email us if you have any follow-up questions. And also please refer to our information booklet, because it has a frequently asked questions section that can help you out. It has the complete 8-semester degree plans to know what you're going to take semester by semester. It has a complete listing of the classes that have to be taken for restricted ATP. All that information's in that information book. So please make sure that you download that by following this QR code, and again, email us if you have any questions. It's been my pleasure visiting with you. I hope this has been informative, and as much as I enjoy visiting with you I'm looking even more so to seeing you in person on campus this fall. So thank you for your time. Appreciate you participating in our Heart Start, and we'll see you in the fall.